we take a historical grammatical interpretation of the Bible, and so these are 7 things that we wrote down that we thought were musts when it comes to our interpretation of how we interpret things. The one that someone basically there's this guy, he's not very kind to us most of the time. I deleted all of his comments, and perhaps I shouldn't have, but I deleted them because they were rude and they weren't very constructive. And he had taken exception to one of the rules, and now I wish that I wouldn't have deleted this so I could quote him. But basically what he said was, you guys aren't scholars. You know, you tout yourself as scholars all the time, but you're not scholars, and you don't know what in the world you're talking about. He said, I almost fell off my chair laughing and in disbelief when you said that we couldn't read the rabbis into the 1st century. He said that the Mishnah was written in the 3rd century, 200s AD, and that even though it was written then, it's oral tradition that goes back to at least 200 years before the time of the Messiah. So that's what he took exception to, was our rule number 5, or our flag number 5 is, are they using anachronistic arguments? Here's the problem with this theory that the rabbis go back 200 years before the time of the Messiah, or all the way back to Sinai. The problem is, who says that they did that? Who says that they go back that far, that oral tradition goes back that far? They say it. The rabbis are the ones who say it.
Are you saying I can't testify about myself, Caleb? Are you going to razz me?
Well, yeah.
If we were in a court of law, how do we establish a matter?
Yeah, exactly, by 3 or 4 witnesses. But all the witnesses are the ones that are saying, of the Mishnah, are the ones that are saying that their word goes back that far. They're testifying of themselves. You're absolutely right. So I don't know. You can't say, oh, well, I can't say, yeah, I said this and it goes back 300 years. And then everybody
have to believe me because I tell you.
Yeah, you have to believe me because I tell you. It just doesn't work like that. So we don't have any other sources that say, yeah, this goes all the way back to, 200 years before the time of the Messiah. That's not a valid argument. You can't use that argument. So anyway, he commented, I deleted his comments, because he doesn't want to have a conversation. What he wants to do is he wants to try to tick us off. And
that's not to say what we're saying about the Mishnah or any, the Mishnah is like, we were not going to treat that any different than we would treat Josephus or, this or that text from the Dead Sea Scrolls or Philo. These are, but we understand, we want to understand where they were written. We want to understand who wrote them, what language did they use. We want to give locality to our sources. We don't want to take the Talmud. The Talmud wasn't written to be a background for the 1st century. So if I comb through the Talmud looking for secrets to the life of Yeshua, I'm going to distort the intent of those who compiled the Talmud. Those who compiled the Talmud weren't interested in that. They were interested in what their issues were.
I want to bring up our first. Hang on just a sec. I want to bring up our first comment from the chat room. Okay, Lois Morgan says, Yeshua said, "If you testify of yourself, you testify. Your testimony is false." Thank you, Lois Morgan. Anyway, thank you.
Well, the idea is, build on, it says, the Torah says we need 2 or 3 witnesses to establish a matter, right? And of course, the Torah specifically is talking about in a capital case, death penalty. But the principle is there. The principle is don't just believe something because somebody tells you. That's like, then gossip would be. How would we ever discern? Why does it say wisdom is in a multitude of counsel? We need to take these principles. And so to be honest, to use just weights and measures, we can look at the Mishnah, then we can look at, say, the Dead Sea Scrolls and Josephus and the Gospels and maybe, other writings from the, before the, I'm saying, between the temple times, if you want to put it that way, or early Second Temple period, and see if there's trends, if there's Jewish cultural truths that we can see because they share these things. Then we have some something to work with. But we want to be careful. The Mishnah is not scripture. And I know there are friends of ours in the body of Messiah who believe in oral Torah, that it's authoritative, that it's from God. And that's very problematic, and I do not believe that. It's not scripture. The Talmud is not scripture.
Well, and one of the things that I always have to remind myself of, and you can disagree with this if you want to. I mean, people out there can disagree with this if they want to or not. But the rabbis made stuff up, and they made stuff up to be able to have more authority. Nothing gives a story weight by saying that it goes all the way back to Moses.
Did you see that in the Talmud it says like Moses was like 10 cubits tall or 15,
yes.
15 cubits tall? It says that a couple times. I mean, should we take that and say, oh, Moses was a giant? He was like, he was taller than Goliath or than the king of Bashan?